All right, welcome back, guys. I have a very cool topic to discuss with you guys this month. It revolves around Olympic lifting and why we as CrossFitters care about Olympic lifting in our scope of what we're trying to achieve, which is general physical preparedness. Okay, so I have written up here the 10 physical skills that we want to always be striving for to create a well-rounded athlete. Okay. So these are the skills. I'm just going to go through them really quick, then we're going to break them down. We have cardiovascular and respiratory, stamina, strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy. So right off the bat, take a minute to think about why you think we care about, in these 10 skills, Olympic lifting. All right, so just think about it. Most of you would probably have thought about at least these two things: strength and power, right? That's generally associated with weightlifting or Olympic lifting. But let's go into it a little bit further and kind of figure out why it is so important that we do practice these Olympic lifts and why we start getting into it, okay? So first, let's just start at the top: cardiovascular and respiratory. All right, the definition of that is the ability of the body system to gather, process, and deliver oxygen. Maybe not so much with Olympic lifting. I know if you're doing high reps, if those of you that have ever done Grace or had some Olympic lifting mixed in with some running, that can get your heart rate up, but we're just gonna put maybe a question mark by that one, okay? It could be. I don't think it's generally used for that, okay? Let's look at stamina. The ability of the body system to process, deliver, store, and utilize energy. We'll probably put a question mark by that one too. In context, if you're doing a lot of Olympic lifting, stamina could be built there, but probably not the main stimulus that we're looking for. Strength, we've already talked about, that's a given. What about flexibility? The ability to maximize the range of motion in a given joint. Now we're getting somewhere. If any of you have ever tried an overhead squat or a squat snatch, some of you are just not able to do it, or some people aren't, just because they lack the flexibility to do it properly. So that right there is, we're getting into, okay, we have to develop this so we are able to do Olympic lifting. So this gets a nice big star here. Yes, flexibility. And this reminds me, we have an awesome picture of one of our members and yoga coaches, Nicole McIntosh, of her doing an overhead squat. She's probably one of our more flexible people in the whole gym due to her yoga background, and things like overhead squatting and snatches became very, her ability to get into them and learn them was a lot easier than someone that has very tight shoulders and not really into yoga coming into CrossFit. So flexibility is definitely a big part of Olympic lifting. As we go down the line, we got power. Yes, they generate power. What about speed? Let's look at the definition of speed. The ability to minimize the time cycle of repeated motion. So when you get into heavier Olympic lifts, the speed becomes very important. If you ever watch any videos of some of the best Olympic lifters in the world, it is lightning fast of them going from extension to the squat position. It's lightning fast. So I think speed would become very important. So we're going to put a blue star by speed. Yes, Olympic lifts develop speed. Coordination. All right, let's check out the definition of coordination. The ability to combine several distinct movement patterns in a singular distinct movement. That's a big blue star here by coordination. So something that we're working when we do Olympic lifts, even with the PVC pipe. When we break this down for you in class, we usually try to keep it 2 or maybe 3 movements, but at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is link those movements into one pattern, which would be a snatch or a clean and jerk. So coordination is something that we're developing when we work on Olympic lifts, even if it's at super lightweight, okay? We're developing that coordination to do those movement patterns in one motion. All right, moving down the list, we'll look at agility. What's the definition of agility? The ability to minimize transition time from one movement to another. Big blue star here with Olympic lifting. Even if we're just practicing with light weight, we're working the agility. So the ability to minimize transition from one movement pattern to the other, we're going from lifting to squatting in a blink of an eye. So working Olympic lifts in that respect, we are working on our agility. So there we go, check. Another general skill that we're working on, just practicing Olympic lifts. Next, we have balance. The definition of balance, the ability to control placement of the body's center of gravity in relation to its support base. So I'm sure a lot of you have already practiced things like squat snatches or squat cleans. If that bar is in front or behind you even a little bit, you're probably not going to make the lift. So even at the lightest weights working PVC pipe, we're working on that balance, the ability to receive the bar, receive weight in that center of gravity so we can maintain a good balance and posture. So balance, big blue star. Accuracy, that's our last one. Let's look at the definition of accuracy, the ability to control movement in a given direction at a given intensity. That right there gets a big blue star. Accuracy is very important when we're receiving the bar in an overhead position or in a front rack position, or with the push jerk getting it overhead. If that bar, same thing with balance, if it's forward or backward of you, you're gonna miss that lift. So we're also developing accuracy when we're working these Olympic lifts. And this doesn't mean at heavy weight. This goes into working light weights with just the bar. We're developing these skills. So look at how many of these 10 general physical skills we're developing. Cardiovascular and stamina, that can be argued. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But we got strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy. All things that we're working on when we practice these Olympic lifts. So keep that in mind, guys. A lot of Olympic lifting is we're developing all these skills. It's not so much about the strength component and the weight component. So that being said, when we do practice these Olympic lifts, keep that in mind that we're developing so much more than just strength and power. I just wanted to share something that I've been researching as I was going through this topic. I found a lot of articles, really good ones by really good coaches that talked about the difference. These are Olympic lifting coaches, by the way. The difference between a CrossFit athlete and an Olympic lifting athlete. And they just talked about how Olympic lifting athletes, when they first come into the gym, there's very much a written out plan for their journey. Their first 2 months, if they're just brand new to Olympic lifting, they're not going more than a PVC pipe for that first 2 months. It doesn't matter on the ability of the athlete if they're very first learning Olympic lifts. And that's to get all of these down, the coordination, the agility, the balance, the accuracy. That's why they keep them at lightweight for so long. And then when they progress to a barbell, they stayed there for another 2 months, honing those skills. Another thing that stuck out to me is they are patient with the process, all right? Meaning that they have a very well written out plan that they know they're doing the same thing every time they go into the gym to develop 2 lifts, the clean and jerk and the snatch. That's all Olympic lifters really care about because that's their sport. That's all they should care about. But us as CrossFitters, we care about a lot more. We want to be able to run. We want to be able to do basic gymnastics. And we're trying to just prolong our longevity in training. So if that's the case, knowing that Olympic lifters are specializing in that one thing, and we as CrossFitters, our main focus is to not specialize in one thing, we want to approach Olympic lifting in a little different sense as far as we want to get better at the lifts, we want to get better at these things. And over time, the strength and the power are going to come from it as our lifts get heavier. But we have to have that foundation first of doing the movements properly, and it will keep you safe and eventually help you in the long run. If we come in and always worry about the weights, Olympic lifters in their training, they rarely 1 rep max. Those videos that you see are of them in competition. Sometimes it's not ideal, but when they are practicing, they're working around 60, 70% for their training cycles. And that's because they want each lift to look and feel exactly the same. So if you were to come in here and every time we do Olympic lifts, you go to max out, you're probably not helping yourself in the long run because you're developing bad habits. So we are what we repetitively do. And so we would want to make sure every time we touch the barbell for an Olympic lift, we're doing everything we can to make that lift perfect. And sometimes that can't happen if we go too heavy with the weights. So what I'm trying to say is, I guess, be patient, enjoy the process, and remember that when we are working Olympic lifts, there's a lot more going on than just the strength and power component. We are practicing all these other skills by just going through and thinking ourselves through Olympic lifting. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Keep hitting it hard, and I will see you next month.